In the spirit of reconciliation and NAIDOC Week celebrations this week, the P&C Federation acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders and past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. I'm Hannah Pia Barral, and I'm the General Manager of P&C Federation. Warm welcome to you all this evening, and thank you for attending today's webinar. There'll be lots of opportunities to ask your questions throughout the presentation. Please use the Q&A option on the bottom of your screen if you just want to spend some time finding that. You'll see it as Q&A. If you click on that, it will expand to a new screen, and you're welcome to ask your questions there. P&C Federation launched a webinar program early this year in response to our P&C Associations' need for more flexible access to information and training. The PowerPoint and a recording of the webinar will be available in a few days. A number of you have asked that, and we were asked that as well earlier today. And you will receive an email from us when this is ready on the P&C Federation website. Today's webinar is on AGMs and audit. We know that this is a busy time for holding AGMs, or that you may be starting to prepare for next year's AGM as well. We wanted the opportunity to assist you in your planning and preparation. And thank you also to many who have submitted your questions ahead of time. We would like to welcome Debbie Clifford, Projects Officer, and Lorraine White, Member Services Officer. They're both facilitating the webinar today. Debbie has been with the Federation for 6 years, and Lorraine has been with the Federation for 7, but has been involved with P&C Associations for over 30 years, which I found out today. So between the two of them, they hold quite a lot of knowledge about a lot of what we need to know about this evening. So thank you, Lorraine and Debbie.
Thank you, Hannah. I'll just share my screen with everyone so we can get started. There is a lot of information to take in. Please feel free to ask questions as we go along. And I will make short little breaks after each slide where I feel that you probably have questions. There are some at the beginning, obviously you won't have questions, but we'll answer as many as possible. If there are some answers that we don't get through to this evening, we will make sure we cover those in future correspondence with you all, as we've got your email addresses, and we'll get underway. Hopefully my technology won't fail me like it did a little bit this morning. So just a bit of an overview of what we're doing this evening, or talking about this evening. The purpose of the AGM, membership, preparing for your AGM audit, why and who, elections, and compliance. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat as well, and in the Q&A as we go along. So the annual general meeting is held once a year per your constitution. The timing of your AGM is found in your P&C Associations bylaws, and your bylaws are held by your secretary. Many P&Cs say we don't have bylaws, and that's often because the filing system of a shopping bag hasn't worked very well and information has been lost. However, we do know, and you would know from history, when your AGM has been held, when your P&C meetings, and when your P&C meetings are held. So we'd suggest you to go to our website and have a look at our suggested list of bylaws and try and rectify that and have that up on, file that in a safe place so you can actually reference that at your meetings if need be, or when new members come along, you can provide them with the constitution and the bylaws. Membership. So membership is from AGM to AGM. So from close of AGM to close of AGM. And you pay your membership to the Treasurer, and the Treasurer issues you a receipt. We advise that you always keep that receipt handy, just in case for some reason the member register is lost or misplaced. If you're voting, you can show proof of being a financial member. So who can be a member of your P&C? Parents, carers and guardians of students at the school, citizens that live within the drawing area of the school. The principal is a member as ex officio due to their position. P&C employees can be members, however, they can't be office bearers. and school staff, teachers, office staff can also be members. We haven't got any questions? No? We'll just move along. Okay. So the purpose of your AGM. The AGM purpose is for acquitting the previous year's funds to the members of the P&C Association. This includes presenting reports from the President and Treasurer and the Principal and some subcommittees. The annual audit is presented to the members to give a clear and accurate showing of the financial situation through the year and the independent opinion of the auditor on the state of the books. In the instance that the auditor does not have sufficient information to carry out the audit completely or feels that it could be improved, your documentation, so to speak, of your financial situation, so your record keeping, the auditor often will make recommendations. Those recommendations would then be taken back to the meeting for the members to accept at your AGM. The audit is also nominated for the following year, and then the elections are held and all positions are declared vacant and nominations are called for. Membership fees are also set. The audit is probably the most important part of the AGM, as it gives the members a clear and transparent view of the financial situation and status before entering into a new year. And we would always advise that if you do not have a completed audit, that you postpone your AGM until you're able to have that completed. Hopefully within 14 days, but often that might be a little bit difficult, but as soon as possible. So preparing for your AGM. There's a little bit of work to do, and I'm just going to open that up so I can see that. So first of all, you would check your bylaws for the date and time of your AGM. Your treasurer would make sure all the documents required are sent to the auditor to be audited with sufficient time to get back for the AGM. Make sure your member register is up to date and correct. You would advertise your AGM to your members and your wider school community, giving at least 14 days notice. Members unable to attend are asked to provide their apologies to the Secretary. You also at the AGM, you would pay your membership for the upcoming year. Bearing in mind, if you are elected into a position at the AGM and you fail to pay your membership, at the close of that AGM, you're no longer a financial member, therefore you no longer hold that position. Provide a written notification if absent, as I mentioned earlier, but also if you wish to accept a nomination, that also has to be in writing to the Secretary. So you can provide a document that states, as I'm unable to attend the AGM, however, I am unable to attend the AGM, sorry. However, if I am nominated for the position, and you would name the position, if it's not a specific position that you wish to be nominated for and are happy to be nominated for any, then you would just say, I accept a nomination, and therefore you can be voted in your absence. However, you must have paid your upcoming year membership prior to this. Otherwise, as I said earlier, at the close of your general meeting, AGM, you'll no longer be a financial member, therefore no longer be able to hold that position. Ensure your President and Treasurer's reports are ready, and that includes the audit, as I said earlier, and check your bylaws for limited tenures on positions. Some P&Cs put this in place to make sure that the office bearers don't hold the position for more than a length of 3 years. This is to make sure that there's an opportunity for other people to also hold positions if they wish to. That's not always the case. A lot of P&Cs don't have that either, so you would need to check your bylaws just to make sure. Do we have any questions?
We do, Deb. We have some around the AGM. We have some around the membership as well, but we might start. So we've just done preparing for the AGM. We'll start with some of those. We have a question about how to run the AGM via Zoom or half on-site, half by Zoom, and what stages does the principal actually become the electoral officer, the returning officer, to take over?
Absolutely. We are getting to that in regards to the election, but to answer the question, if you're hosting your AGM virtually, and you can only do so if you're an incorporated P&C, as that was amended in the Constitution in May by the Minister for Education to allow for alternative to face-to-face meeting where you could meet virtually or a hybrid option. If you meet as a hybrid option, some P&Cs, and as of tomorrow, the Department of Education is allowing P&Cs to host meetings outside of school hours with up to 20 attendees. So you may want to do a hybrid version where the office bearers and the principal attend the school, or whoever is able to attend, up to the amount of 20. And from there, everyone else could Zoom in. You would use the technology you would speak to the principal and arrange that the technology of the school be used, and that would make it easier as well. You would then carry out the process of your AGM the same as you would normally. So the president, and I am getting to that, but the president would open the meeting, do the part of the AGM that they have to do before handing over to the returning officer, which is normally your principal. Voting, when you're doing it virtually and a hybrid version, would be that you would actually need to speak to the principal. So something is arranged that they have a second person to assist them, where people are able to vote either via poll or via their chat function in order to vote for the nominations. And bearing in mind, you only need to do this if more than one person is nominated for the same position. If you wish to do it or anonymously, you're voting, then in the chat function you can actually delegate that to be a private message going to a particular person. The reason for this is that within the Constitution, when it was amended, a show of hands when attending a meeting virtually cannot be used. So you need to make an alternate arrangement of how to vote. So the people within that are face-to-face would be able to vote by eye if they wish to. However, normally during an election, you would make it a secret ballot. So they would write their vote down, it would be popped in a box, and then those votes would be counted. So it's a little bit different when doing a hybrid version. However, it's not impossible, and a number of P&Cs have already carried it out with quite a lot of success.
Okay, for a couple others. Somebody would like to confirm how many members are needed for an AGM quorum?
Okay, so for an AGM quorum, general meeting, special meeting, for both standard constitutions, so P&Cs that aren't incorporated and P&Cs that are incorporated, for 49 members and below, it's a quorum of 5. For those unincorporated P&Cs that are governed by the standard constitution that have 50 members and above, the quorum is 11. However, as of May this year, those P&Cs that are incorporated under the prescribed constitution that was amended by the minister, if they have members 50 and above, their quorum now is required to be 10.
Okay, can an AGM be deferred, Deb?
It can be postponed, and you would, as mentioned earlier, you would try to postpone it in the shortest possible time. There is only really 2 reasons why an AGM would be postponed. One is because you haven't got an audit. The other one would be because you haven't met quorum. other than that, there is absolutely no other reason why you would post, unless it's COVID and you can't meet face to face and you can't do a virtual meeting. But there's no other reason other than those that you would postpone it, because the office bearers, as long as there's a quorum of financial members, the meeting can still go ahead.
Okay, one of the other questions around that, Deb, was for with the COVID, is there something different for meeting off-site for an AGM?
Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, we had a bit of a tweak in that.
Is there anything specifically that's different if you actually have to having an AGM off-site due to the COVID?
I guess the biggest issue that you're concerned about is not to exclude anyone, because the AGM is open to all of the school community. However, if obviously only those that are financial members at the time are able to vote, however, people can come along and become members at the meeting. So it's not ideal to only have virtual meetings. However, sometimes depending on your distance, for instance, if you're a regional or remote school, you may really have no other option because you live hundreds of kilometres away from each other to have a meeting other than virtually. But we would encourage P&Cs, if they can, to continue with a hybrid model. At the very least, the hybrid model has shown great benefits to some P&Cs because it's enabling parents to attend and citizens to attend that may not have been able to come out at night during the meeting. They're now finding that they actually can join in, and there's been an increase in some P&Cs of membership, which has been extremely valuable. So we'll just move along to audit reports. So the audit reports are prepared by an external auditor and are tabled at the AGM. P&C Associations that are incorporated with P&C Federation must submit the audit report to the P&C Federation within a month of their annual general meeting. And the audit report must be certified by the auditor. For P&Cs that are not incorporated, they submit an audited balance sheet or annual report at their AGM. Bearing in mind P&Cs that aren't incorporated aren't required, as per their constitution, to provide P&C Federation with a copy of their balance sheet or annual report. However, in many circumstances, it may be a requirement when renewing your insurances, so that our insurance broker is able to confirm that you have adequate cover, or at least speak to you if they have concerns in regards to the funds that you may have, where they feel that you may need to increase or give you a better option in regards to your insurances. To the next, doesn't want to. Another glitch, sorry. Here we go. We're on to elections now. So, so elections. The President opens the meetings, the AGM, and the reports, the audit, the President's report and the Treasurer's report are presented before handing over to the returning officer. Generally, that's the principle. However, if he's unavailable, the P&C members may elect someone else to be the returning officer. And that person should have no intention of participating in the election as either a nominee or by voting. The returning officer has a bit of a checklist. So they require a list of the current financial members. So the secretary would give them the member register to ensure that those people that have been nominated and those that are voting are current financial members. The returning officer would also check that they meet quorum before declaring all positions vacant. All nominations that may have been received prior to the AGM will have also been given to the returning officer, and then the returning officer would announce those and then also call nominations for the floor. So they would be announced. So if you received a prior nomination for a president, the returning officer would announce the nomination that's been put forward via a document. So normally some P&Cs, not normally, but some P&Cs have a nomination form. So they would read from that form the person or persons that have been nominated for the president position, and then call from the floor any further nominations. The returning officer would go through in sequence of president, vice president, 2 vice presidents. We know there's 2 vice presidents because the Constitution states that. A treasurer and a secretary. May also elect any subcommittee positions that are required. And some P&Cs also choose to elect school committee representatives, for instance, for the school finance committee, or also a representative that may be needed later down the track for a merit selection panel that may be coming up. However, we'd also recommend, just as a quick note, if you do elect your merit selection panel representative, we would also advise that you still go ahead and have your special meeting if requested to provide a representative, even though you have one elected. So you have the opportunity as a P&C to discuss the attributes you'd like to see in the person applying for that position, and that representative has that knowledge going with them of what the P&C is actually looking for in that position. While you don't have a say in a lot of what is advertised because it relates to department policy, however, there is part within the advertising of a position that allows you to have some input, and you have input through the whole process. So you may also be able to use the information that you've been provided by the members as a whole in the interview process. Just move to the next one. So elections. So again, we can continue. Where there's one or more nomination, there should be a secret ballot. We spoke about that earlier. So that can be done via polls if you're going by Zoom. And if you feel there may be a ballot, you can prepare it for each. You can prepare the polls prior to the virtual meeting. And people can actually phone in and also, so if you were using the poll in a virtual meeting for an election, you would set it up what the position is, then A, B, so people would vote on A or B, and you would, or C, depending on how many nominations, of course, and then you would then put that person's name against that letter to vote. People that may be phoning in can also text, so a number is provided where they can text their vote in. Again, they would have to be verified, and that is the beauty of Zoom, that you can pre-register, and that way you have an opportunity, or the secretary has an opportunity to actually check who's registered to attend the AGM, and they can already be very clear whether they have the right amount of financial members attending. Once the ballot has been carried out, they'll be counted. So the returning officer should have a second person, another independent person to help with the counting of that. And obviously the returning officer is not to influence who is nominated or the vote. The result should be given as a thank you to all nominees and a congratulations to the person who has been elected. Then the returning officer welcomes the new committee and hands over the meeting to the president. Now, just before we get on to the president's checklist, I'd just like to mention as well that you don't need to panic if you haven't got your full contingency of 5 office bearers. In accordance to your constitutions, you need at least 2 signatories to operate accounts, and only office bearers can be signatories. So if you only have 2 office bearers elected at the AGM, and as long as you have extra members that would meet more than 5, so you'd have a quorum to continue the P&C after the close of the AGM, P&C business can continue because you have enough people to operate those accounts. The remaining positions would then be listed as casual vacancies and placed on every general meeting agenda until they're filled. So at every meeting, they'd be on the agenda, you'd call for nominations. If someone was nominated and they were voted in, that obviously is no longer a casual vacancy. However, if no one is nominated for any of the casual vacancies, it then remains on the agenda for the following meetings. And so it goes on. Now, if you have an AGM and no office bearers are elected, there's a couple of things you have to think about and consider. Again, if you have 5 members, because that's the minimum for quorum of 5 financial members of the P&C, while you could deposit that membership, no other financial transaction can take place because there isn't anyone authorised to operate the accounts. So it's something that you need to consider, especially if you have employees, because you could find yourself in a very difficult situation. However, if you don't have employees, it can still be a problem, because if you've got volunteers and you're operating a canteen or uniform shop, then there will be an issue in regards to payment of invoices. If you have none of these, and normally you just, well, I don't say just because it's a lot of hard work, but you provide fundraising opportunities for the school, it's also a little bit difficult for them to carry out as well, because most times you need to purchase things in order to do a fundraiser. However, you can still volunteer as P&C members to assist in school activities. So the principal may be having an activity at school and they may wish to, or ask, that they have some volunteers help out from the P&C. So that could still continue. Any questions?
There's a number of questions around who can and can't be elected. That is for sure, Deb.
Okay.
So there is. So, and about membership for elections. So do people become members for the next year at the end of the AGM? Otherwise, no voting is possible for the first general meeting.
So if you have no members after your AGM, you have no P&C. That's pretty plain and simple, really. So membership is from AGM to the close of the following AGM. So yes, you can vote at your AGM, you can be elected for a position, but if no one's paid any membership during that AGM, at the close of that AGM, no one is a financial member. So membership must be collected on or before the AGM for the upcoming year.
Okay. Can a teacher working in another public school hold a position on the committee as a parent at their child's school?
Yes, so even if they were a teacher at the school they worked at, they can also hold an office bearer position. So it's only P&C employees that can't hold an office bearer position. And this is seen quite often, again, in regional areas where it's a very small school and a number of the office bearers are teachers or office staff from the same school. So yes, they can.
Okay. So the nomination for an executive, does a nomination for an executive position need to be seconded? And also following on from that one, can a member who self-nominates and has no seconder be allowed on the executive?
So I guess there's a couple of things there to clarify. So when you say executive, I guess I have to ask, are you talking about the office bearers? Because there are 5 office bearers, but the executive is the 5 office bearers and up to an additional 6 financial members. So the office bearers are the office bearers and they're not the executive until they're joined by up to another 6 financial members. And yes, every nomination must be seconded in order for it to go to be carried. So obviously if there's only the one nomination and second for a position, then that doesn't go to a ballot. They're automatically elected for that position. However, if there's more than one, it goes to a ballot. Did I cover all of that?
I think so. So we have, you know, is the principal and deputy principal included as being financial members, so they have a vote too?
So if the vice principal is a member, they have a vote. If they're not assisting the returning officer, the principal is a neutral party at the AGM. They hold the role, or they normally have the role of returning officer, and therefore they aren't able to vote. And if they were having assistance from a vice principal, then they wouldn't have voting rights as well, because it would be a conflict of interest if they're helping with the count as well. But if they're not, if the vice principal was there as a P&C member, they have the same voting rights as everyone else if they're not a part of helping, the returning officer.
Okay, this one will get you. In the absence of any elected executive members at the AGM, the previous year's executive are or aren't allowed to keep going in their roles until a new executive or two executive minimum, so that invoices can get paid, or are the previous year's exec immediately vacant and can't continue in the role, e.g. Treasurer 2020, to keep invoices paid until a new treasurer for 2021 gets elected?
Okay, got that. Okay, so I guess we're back to office bearers, 5 office bearers. They're the responsible persons of the association and the authorised signatories. Again, sorry, a little bit different from the exec committee. So some P&Cs look ahead, so they prepare for the future and may put in place processes that all payments are made and are ready to go, have been activated for a period of time after the AGM. However, if your AGM does not elect new office bearers at your AGM, the positions are declared vacant. That is the process. And that's why there is a process that allows a general meeting to be held directly following an AGM, for a couple of reasons. One, for that reason that you have asked, that if no one is elected as an office bearer at the AGM, and that could be because there is a tenure in the bylaws. However, once that tenure is broken because the positions aren't filled, you can then go on to the general meeting. And if those people wish to, again, nominate themselves or someone else within the P&C, they can do so. I think I've just lost my place. There was another answer there that I needed to get to as well. I'm sorry.
It was whether they can continue to pay invoices until they have a new treasurer or, you know, other office bearers.
No, they can't. So if you're happy to continue in the position, your position is vacant. However, again, you could be re-elected at the meeting following the AGM. So the general meeting that follows directly after.
So here's one. If members pay membership fee just before or at the AGM, can they vote?
No. So unless they're a member, already a financial member, any payment made just before the AGM or at the AGM is for the upcoming year. So if you paid your membership before the end of the last general meeting, which may have only been a month ago, at the close of that general meeting, you're then a financial member and you could vote at the AGM. However, you would need to pay again at the AGM to continue your membership following the close of the AGM.
Okay. Can the P&C secretary take minutes of the AGM?
Yeah, absolutely. They do take minutes. Normally, they take minutes through the whole process until they hand over to that new position. So obviously, you need to document information up to that point, and once it's handed over to the principal as the returning officer, somebody needs to record who's been elected. So yes, their position, even though it's been declared vacant, lasts a little bit longer. If the secretary was to flatly refuse, however, and say, no, my position is declared vacant, I'm no longer the secretary, then you would at the meeting ask that somebody be nominated as scribe until it can be handed over to the incoming secretary.
And I have one here that really relates to the election stuff. What is a returning officer?
So the returning officer is a neutral party that can carry out the election process. So they don't have, or shouldn't have any conflict of interest in regards to the voting process. They should be neutral in the voting process and carry that out in its proper manner. So that's why it states it's usually the principal at the school, because they are an ex officio because of their position in the school. However, if they're not able to, then you can elect a neutral party to be that returning officer. It's just to keep everything above board in the voting process, basically.
Yeah.
So we'll just move on to the president's checklist. So the new president has now taken the chair, and they need to, you'll put forward, need to do a few things before the AGM closes. So the president would need to make sure that the membership fee for the upcoming year is set, and that could be whether it is lowered, remain the same, or it's raised. This can only be voted on by the financial members in an AGM and not in a special meeting. So the Constitution states a minimum of 50 cents as a membership fee. Now, a donation is not a membership fee. So when schools collect on behalf of a P&C a voluntary contribution, and they say it goes towards the P&C, that is not membership to the P&C. You have to actually come to the P&C meeting or complete, a form. There are proper processes in order to become a member. You need to pay a membership and receive a receipt. Some P&Cs have got caught out because they've really been in a pickle, because they've carried out the P&C meetings, and they've allowed anyone that's made a voluntary contribution to the P&C to be a member. And when there's been controversial issues, this has been quite a problem, because you would have both parents attending this meeting. They could then find themselves with quite a few parents attending, hundreds of people in fact. And then how do you know who's voting? They believe their membership is for both and not individuals. So it can cause a lot of conflict. But to be clear, it's stated in the Constitution, membership must be paid, and it must be a minimum of 50 cents. Again, some P&Cs have decided on a larger amount of membership, and some P&Cs pay $100 as membership. However, they do that because they don't do no further fundraising throughout the year. They volunteer their time, they offer services and resources, but they don't do any further fundraising. And that was a decision the members have made. The president, it's important that the president announces and that the membership fees are due and that membership is paid to the newly elected office bearer position of treasurer. If the new treasurer isn't there, then the newly elected secretary can also collect that and document it. Make sure that there is an auditor appointed for the following AGM, and that a motion is carried which names the new office bearers and the role in which they've been elected as the signatories on all accounts and the responsible persons of the P&C or business of the P&C Association. Now you'll need these in the minutes to be signed. Oops, I've jumped. To be signed off, and because the bank will require them when changing signatories on accounts. So it's important that you have you do that, so you can get that changed as soon as possible within the bank. Do we have any questions there? You're on mute, Lorraine, so.
Lorraine, you're on mute.
Sorry, I have children in the background. I apologise for that. So we got a question about who can be the auditor.
Yep. So the auditor, it can be anyone who is, so it can be a bookkeeper, doesn't have to be an accountant. And P&Cs again will decide what best suits their needs. Some P&Cs run large business streams and require require a higher level of auditing to be carried out. But someone that does bookkeeping or runs their own business or is a SAM at the school, sometimes the office staff within the school, sometimes P&Cs will approach the high school and they might approach the SAM at the high school. They might also approach one of the members of a P&C in their local high school and vice versa. So they actually share that role. So, you know, they don't have to go looking. They need to be aware of probity in regards to a P&C association, so how it runs, and obviously the integrity is upheld and everything is transparent. So it really is, you don't have to pay hundreds of dollars. I mean, some P&Cs pay thousands of dollars. You don't have to do that. Some P&Cs also go to their local bookkeeper or accountant and they ask that their services be donated. And in return, they might place a small ad in the P&C newsletter for their support of the P&C. So again, it's a decision of the P&C itself to discuss and to investigate what options there are and who they may be able to ask or contact to carry out an audit for their P&C.
Do you need to be a current member to be elected into a position?
Yes, you have to be a financial member before being elected into a position.
And I think you answered this one, but we'll reiterate. Is any fee acceptable to become a financial member?
So again, it's a decision of the P&C. Minimum is 50 cents as per both constitutions. However, at the AGM, the fee for the upcoming year is set. Now, it may remain the same. You may reduce it. You may raise it. But it's a decision of the members at the AGM what that fee will be. Now, remembering it's important because when you become a member, it's also showing commitment. So, and being a member entitles you to receive minutes of your meetings, entitles you to vote, entitles you to speak at meetings. And people go, well, we just distribute our minutes to the whole school. That's not something that we actually advise because, and we use the scenario, you wouldn't go down to your local RSL and say, I'm not a member of the RSL, but I think I should see the minutes of your last meeting. It's a commitment. If somebody is interested enough to want to see the minutes, then they should be interested enough to become a member. So while you may put in your newsletter little snippets of things that were discussed or activities or ventures that the P&C is going to do and decided upon, we wouldn't advise your minutes to be placed out there other than to financial members.
Can you hold an executive position? Can you hold two executive positions? Now, can the same person be a vice president and a treasurer, for example?
No. Again, not an executive position, but an office bearer position. No. One person, one position. So in that scenario, we say, because often it is very difficult to, there's a big workload, especially for the secretary and the treasurer. So if you're lucky enough to have a full contingency of office bearers, it's a good opportunity for the president to delegate one of those vice presidents to assist the treasurer and delegate the other to assist the secretary. It helps people that are also understand other roles better, but it also means that if for some reason there is the secretary can't attend a meeting, then the vice president that's been helping them is able to deliver any information that would come normally from the secretary, and that's the same for the treasurer. So if they were absent, the vice president that might be assisting them, it's giving two sets of eyes over all of the information and business of the association, so they could deliver that report on their behalf at a meeting. Because the other thing we would always recommend in doing this, it also helps safeguard the P&C making any financial decisions without a current financial report present or treasurer's report present. And we would always advise that a P&C's place a bylaw, put a bylaw in place stating that no financial decisions shall be made at a P&C meeting without a current treasurer's report present. And that's a bit of a safeguard. Reason behind it, you don't have to have any office bearers there to have a P&C meeting. Just because if you've got a P&C meeting due and the office bearers aren't able to attend due to sickness, holidays, whatever, but 5 financial members meet quorum, they can still meet and make decisions. However, if you have something in place where it stops financial decisions being made without a treasurer's report present, it could save a decision being made expending a huge amount of money when you may not even have that money available, or it could put the P&C in a very difficult situation. So we'll move on to compliance. So if your P&C is incorporated, as part of your incorporation under P&C Federation, you must provide a copy of your audited financial statement within 1 month of the AGM. And if you're not sure, if you have access to the members portal, you are able to upload that yourself. You can email it to us. If you have any questions about that, you can also contact us either by phone or by email at mail@pandc.org.au. All P&C members, all member P&C associations must complete a P&C Federation's member register update, and that's on our website under the members tab, to ensure we have the most accurate current details of those office bearers that are newly elected. Because our role at P&C Federation is to support our member P&C associations, and to do that, we speak to the responsible persons of the association. And so often if you call the office, you'll be asked, what's P&C or school do you belong to, and do you hold a position? And we check that on our database. Sometimes we're not able to answer you because you'll say, yes, I was newly elected last week. However, the member register hasn't been updated and there's no way of us confirming who we're actually speaking to. So that we ask you to complete that. You also would ensure that the president and secretary have access to any passwords. For instance, P&C Association affiliate email account or the members portal, as I mentioned earlier, that's been provided by us. If those passwords aren't given to you, or you're unsure whether you actually have an affiliate email or access to a members portal, again, just email affiliate support and we can help you out with either resetting passwords or letting you know whether you have one set up or not, or whether you require to request to have it set up. You also need to update the contact details of the responsible persons for your ABN number with ABR, Australian Business Registry, within 28 days, or if there's any changes within 28 days. The details in those changes includes the authorised contact person. And the last one, and I think we've got them a little bit back to front, but the last one is Australian Charities and Not-for-Profit Commission, so the ACNC. So they're the charities and not-for-profit arm of the ATO. and you need to be compliant with them in order to hold charity status. If a P&C is a not-for-profit, however, if they don't hold charity status, the ATO may ask them to pay tax on any money that they fundraise. Also, you need to do a couple of things with ACNC. Update your responsible persons. Again, we would always recommend all 5 office bearers, the same as signatories on accounts, all 5 office bearers, so that if someone is sick or away, P&C business doesn't stop. ACNC also requires the responsible persons, when you call up or speak to them, they will check that. You need to do that first before ABR, and that's what I meant before. I've got it round the wrong way, because the Australian Business Register looks back to ACNC for responsible persons. And if they're not listed, they'll say, oh, it's not that you're changing them, yet you're not the person listed with ACNC currently. So you need to do ACNC first. I know it's a little bit odd, but that's how it is. And again, I mentioned earlier about the insurance. It says in an instance for when applying or renewing for membership with P&C Federation, it's not the membership component that requires it for unincorporated P&Cs, it's the insurance part of it. Okay. Do you have any questions for me, Lorraine?
I have a number of questions.
Okay.
I do. That is for sure. Who would update the member register to the P&C Federation? I think I can answer that one. It's the role of the secretary. It's part of their administration duties, but it can be any of the office bearers who can update the member register on the website for sure, or through the members portal, which makes it very convenient. If you've got your password into the members portal, you can actually hop online and update those details yourself. Okay. Can a report be a written one if the treasurer is not present? Yes, it can.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I'm just going to say, yeah, yes, it can, because at the end of the day, like Deb suggested, you can assign vice presidents to the secretary and treasurer's role. In that case, your vice president who's assigned to the treasurer would be the person who would actually give the written report, read off the written report and answer any questions, because they have an idea. If a written report is handed and the treasurer is not there and there isn't someone assigned to the treasurer, then one of the other office bearers can read the report, but sometimes the questions may need to be answered by the treasurer at a later date. Okay. Who would be updating the ABN and ACNC with the updates with them, Deb? That
would also be the secretary or somebody, so it could be the vice president, that if the one has been delegated to assist the secretary, but again, it's the administration of the association. So it lies with the secretary. However, sharing is caring, so they say. So if you're able to delegate that information as well, for them to update, that's also fine to do.
Okay, and another one leading on from that, with the secretary updating the P&C registered members, would that be the existing secretary or the new secretary?
Okay, so it's the newly elected secretary that is updating the office bearers' details to P&C Federation, ACNC and Australian Business Register for their ABN. The secretary and all office bearers that have stepped down from their positions would do a handover of all the information they have, and that might happen on the evening. Some P&Cs have it all structured, so there's a process, they've got everything documented, what their usernames are, what the passwords are, where to find them. So if they're using an affiliate email, for instance, what P&C Federation found was happening, and it was the same constant issue over and over again, that information was being lost year after year every time office bearers were elected, because the old shopping bag filing system wasn't working as well as it should, and it was lost in garages, in boots of cars and wherever else. P&C Federation saw this as an ongoing issue that needed to be rectified, and discussions were had with Microsoft in order to get up to 5 free affiliate email accounts available to every financial P&C across New South Wales. Each of those accounts holds a terabyte of storage, and they're all cloud-based, so easily to access, and they have the suite of Office 365, so Excel, Word. They're all cloud-based again, not not desktop, but you're able to set up files in the OneDrive and save your documents there, and it builds to sustainability in your P&C. You use the calendar to put in dates that are special to your P&C, where you may do particular events annually. You also would put in when membership is due, when you may pay student injury, when that is due. So the record's already set up and established for the new office bearers coming in. It's also a great resource, because even though, sadly enough, some office bearers, when leaving their position, don't necessarily leave it happy, and they may delete emails and information that you may have stored. Deleted emails can't be recovered. However, if they have files up in OneDrive, our IT can recover the files. So it's a bit of a safeguard in that respect, where you won't constantly be losing those documents year in and year out. The Office 365 and the affiliate email also meets privacy and confidentiality within Australia, and it was negotiated and agreed upon that all data is stored on servers within Australia, in either Melbourne or Sydney. So it's a great resource. Like I said, there's up to 5 affiliate emails that can be set up. Some P&Cs choose to have just the one, and they share it between the office bearers. Others, each office bearer has one set up. Other P&Cs may choose to have the president, secretary and treasurer, and then the uniform shop and the canteen. So it can be set up how you decide that best works for your P&C.
Just on that, Debbie, one of the questions that came up this morning was the challenge of doing handover documents and where are they stored. And I think one of the things that we mentioned was that handover doesn't usually just start as people are finishing. Part of the business process that a lot of new office bearers would be advised to think about is as you come in and as you discover new documents that you know should be kept in a central point, that's really probably the time that you start thinking about the types of systems and processes that you need to put in place, so that when you do leave, it's also that under the bus or winning the lotto theory, isn't it? If I win the lotto tomorrow and I decide I no longer want to do this, then can someone else actually step in and find the things that you need? So it's not just about when you finish, but it's about how can you build sustainability now, as Debbie mentioned.
Absolutely. And P&C Federation work by the ethos. When you come into a P&C, sometimes there is a lot of things that need to be rectified, and no one expects them to be done overnight. But to bear in mind, if you can leave your position at a P&C having made at least one improvement from when you took over, then you've done something really good, because that's one improvement less for the next person to have to work on.
And just on that, Debbie, before Lorraine stepped in again, I just picked up 3 questions. One is, does this provide a secure platform for all P&C information, including financial information? And then quite a number of questions around how do we access the affiliate emails and how can we find this information?
Absolutely. So yes, it is safe. It's stored within Australia, but it meets all the privacy, confidentiality and securities within Australia. If you wish to have an account set up, then you would email affiliate support at pandc.org.au. As we get to the last slide, I think it is up there as well. However, if you if all else fails, our main email address that finds its way to everywhere it needs to go if all else fails is mail@pandc.org.au. So you would then request that it be set up. Again, you would tell us your role within the P&C, so whether what your title is as office bearer. We check that against our database. If it isn't up to date and we can't verify you are who you are, we will email you back and say, can you please complete a member register update? Once that's complete, we can then set up your affiliate email.
It's 8:03, just to signal that we've got about 27 minutes with 56 questions still open in our Q&A. So we might have to be quite efficient with how we respond to some of grouping these questions. And you've probably got a few minutes of an opportunity to add any more additional questions that you haven't asked yet, because what we will do then, we'll start to group the questions and respond to them quite efficiently to make sure that everybody gets their questions responded to.
And we're on our second last slide. So this is the last information one, basically. I'll keep the last one up for a little bit longer if you wish to take details down. However, as Hannah said at the beginning of the webinar, this will be sent out to you, so you will receive any information that you see in front of you tonight. So things to remember about your P&C Association: it is an autonomous entity. While it's enabled within the Education Act, it sits autonomously within the school. So a P&C operates autonomously. However, it needs to follow certain policies of Department of Education while operating within the school. P&C associations are not part of the Department of Education, so that is important to be aware of. And further webinars will explain a little bit more about that, and that's in regards to working with children checks and alike. But we don't have time for that tonight. P&C associations should be collaborative partners with the school and the staff, because that's what the objective of a P&C is, to support the students and the school community, and to bring the school community together, not divide it. So that's another reason why in the election, well, not the election process, but in the voting process when moving motions, we would always recommend that your president remains neutral as Switzerland, because the quickest way to divide a P&C is for a president to take sides in a particular discussion or a particular decision-making process. So, right, wrong or otherwise, Switzerland is a good option, and many P&Cs find that works really well, because P&C community members within the school can see that it's not just a one-sided operation, as some parents and school community members see P&Cs at. So it's open and warm and welcoming. Everyone has the opportunity to participate, and there's no one person making the final decisions. It is P&Cs work by the decisions of the members. So P&Cs offer support and assistance for the welfare of students enrolled at the school. P&C associations can work alongside the staff in a positive promotion of the school and the school community. So if the school is hosting an event, and many times P&Cs also volunteer to assist with that, and that might be on orientation day for kindy, or parent-teacher night, or directing traffic of where people need to go, all sorts of different things. So it's not just about fundraising. P&C Federation, we're the peak body who offers advice and support and resources to member organisations. And these are the P&C associations, as I said earlier, and they're represented by the 5 office bearers. So therefore, they're the people that we speak with. If someone was to give us a call and they're not an office bearer, and they say, no, I'm not an office bearer, but I'd like this information, we give them what we call vanilla information. So vanilla information is any information that can be found on our website. And if further information is required, we would direct them to ask one of their office bearers to give us a call for further information. And lastly, the P&C Federation has no authority over P&C Associations. So we're not going to invite ourselves in to say you're doing everything wrong. We give information sessions, and many P&Cs panic and go, oh my goodness, I'm not going to talk to them, I'm going to be into trouble. We say, what you don't know, you don't know. Now you do. Moving forward, you work towards rectifying it. And that's our role, to support our members to achieve great things for our children in public schools in New South Wales. So I'll just move on to my last slide, and then we'll get to a few more questions. So as responsible persons of the association, you would contact us. Mail is the mail at PANDC, it's the generic. Monday to Friday, our phones go off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you ring us at 5 to 4 and it goes to message bank, you probably won't get a response until the following day. If it's Friday, until the Monday. There's a link here that you will see when you receive the PowerPoint presentation to the member register update. There's also the insurance link to email to insurance if you have any questions. And again, the link to ABR and ACNC. Hannah had up when we started a flyer discussing New South Wales P&C Volunteer of the Year nominations that are now open. This is an event that P&C Federation holds annually before the first, say it again, Debbie, before the first Wednesday in March. So this event will be hosted on the 26th of February, where we know volunteers for P&Cs are vitally important, and we want to acknowledge them. So we invite P&Cs across New South Wales to nominate a volunteer from their P&C they feel is worthy of the title of New South Wales P&C Volunteer of the Year 2020. Now, this year's been a challenging year, yes, but many P&Cs and many volunteers in P&Cs have still managed to do some amazing things. And like every year, volunteers should be acknowledged. So I'll leave you with that, and we'll get on to some questions, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
But do you want to unshare your screen so that...
Sure.
Questions? Well, we have quite a few questions, that is for sure. Does the P&C need to ask approval or permission from the principal on any changes, e.g. P&C run uniform shop trading hours, or how funds are to be spent, etc.? Okay,
so as that second last slide mentioned, P&Cs work in partnership with the school and the principal. So I guess you want things to run smoothly, and we would always recommend that you have a conversation with the principal before making any changes that's going to also impact the school community as far as the uniform shop. However, you would vote. If you required that to be changed, you would vote on a decision that needs to be taken. We're deciding that we wish to change the hours of operation. However, before you made the final decision, we would always recommend that you talk with the principal, as they're the caretaker of the school, so to speak, and the uniform shop would be operating within that school grounds.
What should be included in a president's report?
So a president's report for your AGM needs to be a happy one. Needs to identify the fantastic achievements that you've made through the year as a P&C. We don't always say to necessarily independently thank people, because that sometimes can lead to missing someone out. But as a whole, you know, it is a celebration of your achievements throughout the year and all of those people that have helped. So that's basic, and your position as president, and how you found the position to be. So it really is up to you what you present in your report for that AGM, but we hope it's a positive one.
Can you hold an AGM if you don't have your audit reports back by the time of the meeting?
We would recommend you don't, that you postpone it, hopefully only for 14 days or so, but as soon as you can hold the AGM. As I said earlier in the evening, that's one of the main reasons you have your AGM. It's not just about electing people into positions, but it's about closing off the last financial year before starting the new one with the new office bearers.
So then what happens when audits are not done in the past? For example, 2014 to 2017, and you've taken over this year.
Yep. So probably the first thing that comes to mind to me is that you're not actually, you may have your charity status revoked with ACNC, because normally if it's not received for 4 years, they're revoked. They give you a little bit of leniency to rectify, and they normally send out an email notification. Again, another reason why to have an affiliate email, so there's a consistent place that those emails are coming to. So probably the first thing I would do is contact ACNC and find out when they received, or if you've ever been registered as a charity. If you've never been registered as a charity, then you would register as a charity and they would only need your latest one. In regards to P&C Federation, we would say to provide us with the information that you can over those years. And that's really the best you can do. In some instances, ACNC will ask for an affidavit to state the reasoning behind that annual income statement not being completed previously. But yes, it really is one of those things that it depends on your situation, and we would always recommend that you give us a buzz and have further discussion about that. So you can call us Monday to Friday or send an email to mail@pandc.org.au.
I'm trying to understand the time between year-end, audit and AGM. What's an ideal time gap?
Yep. So most P&Cs have their AGM in March or around August. If you look at your constitution, it states that the audit should be within 3 months. Shouldn't be any older than 3 months when presented at your AGM. So many P&Cs have an annual financial year, January to December. So once school closes, they've already arranged that all the documentation required to be given to the auditor is done, so that it's ready for your AGM in March. If your AGM is in August, July, August, it's normally because you've gone July to June as your financial year, and your AGM is in August. So it gives you an opportunity to put all your documentation into your auditor and have it back for your AGM in August.
When can you change the bylaws? Is it only at AGMs?
No, so when you change a bylaw, you need to give financial members notice of the proposed changes, and you need to give them a month's notice. So you would send out a notice with the proposed changes or amendments to the bylaws or additions to the bylaws, and then allow for a month and then hold a meeting where those changes, amendments or new additions can be voted upon.
What if there's a vacancy at after the AGM for the president's role?
Yep, so if there is, it becomes a casual vacancy. And so while there is no president, one of the vice presidents would take on the chair or sit in the chair. They'd still be the vice president, but they would chair the meetings. On the agenda, each agenda would have casual vacancy for president, and nominations would be called for at every meeting until that position is filled. And the vice president would continue to chair meetings in the president's absence or they might also be requested by the school principal to represent the P&C at an assembly or presentation.
So Deb, we've also got one about, do we have to have 2 vice presidents?
So the Constitution states that there is 2 vice presidents. Some P&Cs only have the one. However, it comes back to a casual vacancy, and that must be recorded on the agenda as a casual vacancies and nominations called for at every meeting until filled.
So how can we collect membership fees if the AGM is held via Zoom?
So some P&Cs have spoken to their school principal, and the principal has set up a box within the office where an envelope with the membership form that has been emailed out, or a link has been put in the newsletter for the membership form, where that can be printed out and money put in an envelope and dropped up at the school. Other P&Cs are sending their bank details. So again, there is a link to their membership application form, which is they complete and either email back or submit, and then they pay their fee by direct deposit straight into the account. The process there needs to be very clear on how people would be identified. So that's again a discussion that needs to be had within your P&C.
So can a parent at the school perform the audit provided they do not hold an office bearer role?
Well, they can, yes. Again, you would take it to your members. You would make sure that if there is any thoughts that there may be a conflict of interest, that any of that is declared, and then it is up to the members to decide if they're happy to move forward and happy for that person to carry out the audit for the P&C.
Okay. If the P&C has an administrator employee who does all the administrative and bookkeeping functions, how does that change the role of the office bearer position descriptions and the payment of invoices? And we've got a couple interested in this one.
Okay, so it doesn't. And it doesn't because the P&C office bearers are the only signatories on the account. So you can't employ somebody to be a signatory on the account. They can have the authority to set up payments, whether it be wages or invoices. However, it's the signatories that must authorise that process.
Okay, I have a couple of comments as well here. Updating details on ABR can only be done by the public officer, and it took me 12 months to find the right person to add me as the president, so I can update our details with the ABR and ATO. And we've got, there's a couple of them that have had this issue, Deb.
Sorry, can you just repeat that again?
Updating details with the ABR can only be done by a public officer. It took me 12 months to find the right person to add me as president, so I could update the details with the ABR. And the other one we also had this issue, really tricky. Is there a checklist of what should be done when new office bearers are coming into roles, e.g. updating the ABR, ATO, etc.?
Sometimes it's the luck of the draw, unfortunately, who you get at the time when you're doing these things. But ACNC should always be updated first because they refer back to that when you're updating your other details on ABR. One suggestion I would be for you, if you P&Cs out there continue to have that issue, that you please notify us so that we can further investigate and find out some more information for our members. We've not had a lot of feedback or had any feedback that this has become a major, this is an issue. There has been issues in regards to changing entities on your ABN when you've gone from an unincorporated P&C to an incorporated P&C. So please, if that is happening to you and your P&C, then send us through an email so we can further investigate why that may be happening, and we may be able to see what can be done to make it a bit smoother.
We also have a comment that says, it takes 7 to 10 days. It has taken up 7 to 10 days for the mail to change the registration as well. So that might be something we need to follow up as well.
Just We've got about 8 minutes before we're due to finish the webinar. You are able to vote on the questions in the Q&A. So if you just quickly scan it while we're answering your questions, like the question that you would like most answers so we can respond to them in the order of priority, that would be much appreciated. Thank you. We've got about 52 more questions sitting in the Q&A.
Go.
Like them now. It's like Facebook, really. Thank you.
Can people become members of a P&C between AGMs?
Yes, they can. So the only thing you have to remember there is people can become members between any meeting as long as when they pay their payment, they're not a financial member until the meeting following when that payment was made. So if they go to a meeting and make their payment, once the meeting closes and the member register is updated, they're then a financial member with voting rights. If they pay between general meetings, they'll have to wait for the close of the upcoming meeting before that to be enacted.
How much input should a principal have on P&C discussions?
Well, that's a little bit of a hard one to answer because you'd need further detail. So I guess, what is the discussion? So tonight may not be the platform for that, and you might like to send us an email. However, the school principal is a member of the P&C. So like all members, has the opportunity to speak, ask questions, and yeah, participate in discussions. I guess the thing to note is what is the discussion about, and that will depend on whether it's a conflict of interest, so to speak. So, you know, if it was a conflict of interest, then it may be a discussion with the president, with the principal, to say, you know, we feel that this is a conflict of interest. Put it to the members. If the members are happy for the principal to participate and don't feel it's a conflict of interest, then so be it. But that's how you'd have to proceed. You just can't say, we don't want to hear from you because you're the principal.
There's a couple of questions on this one. You know, our P&C has been postponed until next year due to COVID. Is this okay?
So there's no AGM happening at all this year. I guess that's a difficult one. If your AGM hasn't happened this year, you are in breach of your constitution, because it does state that an AGM must be held annually. I guess it also depends on your operations as well. Again, you've breached it full stop with your constitution. There's no arguing that. Where you go moving forward would be a discussion offline, probably with Lorraine or myself, because it also meant, we don't know what your structure is for your P&C operations in general. So that's a bit more information needed.
Can you still be an office bearer if your kids have transferred to a different school?
So you can still be a member of the P&C as long as you live in the same the school's drawing area. So for instance, I live in an area where the high school and the primary school are back to back. So I live within the same drawing area. I could remain a member at the primary school even though my children no longer go there. I would then be a community member. And then I could also be a parent member at the high school. If you're out of area of the drawing area of the school and your children no longer go to the school, then it's a decision of the P&C. Some P&Cs have processes, policy in place to state, because they're out of area, they might be a selective school, to state what the process will be when those students that are out of area no longer attend the school, in regards and how that will affect the members of the P&C.
Can the tenure dates be increased or decreased? And if they are, what then happen? Can that happen at any time?
So putting a tenure on is a bylaw, and so therefore it follows the same process as if you wish to change or amend a bylaw. You would send out notice giving 1 month's notice to members before voting on any changes.
Is there a checklist somewhere that we can look to assist the Secretary when sending out the AGM agenda? Something which includes how the office bearers should attend the AGM with all required documents, usernames, passwords ready for a handover.
We don't actually have a document. We do have the AGM checklist, and that can be found on our website under members, under meeting process AGM, and that gives you some information in regards to what to do before, during and after an AGM. The reason there's no information about a checklist on our website is every P&C is autonomous. So your processes are your processes, and how you actually operate. So for us, we encourage you to have an affiliate email. However, some P&Cs choose not to. So we always advise that what best suits your P&C should be discussed with your members before putting in place, because again, it has to be voted upon, because they have to understand what the structure of our P&C will be.
Okay, is there a document that states what documentation is required for an audit?
Yes, there is. So there is some information on our frequently asked questions, but we also have a financial management manual which is accessible via the members portal. So if you don't have access to the members portal, it's a snapshot of our database with some information of your P&C, so the name of the school that you belong to, your office bearers. That's where you can update and upload your audit. But it also gives you access to some manuals that aren't accessible freely on our website. And one is financial management. Another one is employment. And the third one is, go for it, Lorraine. Sorry, the third manual. I didn't hear you.
Running the canteen.
Running a canteen management.
Every time I go blank. So, yeah. So again, if you haven't got a members portal access, please send an email to affiliate support@pandc.org.au to have that set up.
Have many P&Cs had difficulty engaging an auditor due to COVID and the workload many accountants and auditors have had?
I think it's a bit of a mixed bag for P&Cs. Some P&Cs have used some resources that they already have, obviously, within the school, the small schools especially. Other P&Cs have approached their local bookkeepers or even accountants. Again, you don't need an accountant. However, sometimes you can do a deal, so to speak, where they'll do a community service and carry out your audit, and in return you may put an advertisement in your P&C newsletter that states they support your their local P&C. But no, we haven't really had a lot of feedback from members at all that it's been an issue.
It's 8:30, and we do have about 45 more questions, and we have answered about 45 questions as well. I think might be an opportunity for the team to review the questions that are remaining, and there is a way to group some of these questions around themes, and what we can do is come up with some quick checklists, because what we can do is also direct you to our website, where there's a whole lot of information available to you as members that you can access as well, that actually answers some of your questions as well. So we'll get the team to consolidate that quite a bit, and then unfortunately we are unable to answer everything, even though we've allocated 1.5 hours to this workshop. But some of the other questions also is related to the roles and responsibilities of office bearers. So Debbie, do you want to talk quickly about the upcoming webinar that we have on that?
Absolutely. So if you're interested in roles and responsibilities, or you just want to clarify some questions, we're holding another webinar for roles and responsibilities on the 26th of November. It's an evening session, the same as this one. So come along and join us, and yeah, send us your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them.
And to register for that, go onto our website under events and find the registration link there. So we might wrap up on that. I think it's probably time to let our attendees have the rest of the evening to spend time with the family. Thank you, Debbie and Lorraine, for a very comprehensive session today. Same thing happened this morning. We had numerous questions come through, and overall we've had some really positive feedback come through for our members. So we would really appreciate your feedback on today's webinar. You will receive an email tomorrow from the office to take you to SurveyMonkey, so you can give us some of your thoughts about what we did today. As mentioned earlier, a copy of the PowerPoint and a recording of this webinar will be available to you in a few days, most likely early next week, and an email will be sent to you as well to remind you that this is now available on the website. On that, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we look forward to seeing you at our future webinars. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.